Just a warning, Abby drank water too fast, and so she's barfing it up, and I can't get her to stop. So if the dog barfs in the middle of the show, we're just going to pretend it didn't happen.
Ditto. I have way too much water. No, it was nice. It was a nice funeral. It was good to be back. And I know you're not supposed to go into funerals with expectations, but I was really hoping that somebody that kind of looked like me was going to stand up and go, "He was my dad," and we were going to have like a bastard cousin come in, now would be the time. Sadly, no, there are no bastard cousins that I'm aware of, but I was rooting for that. But it was
Was your now deceased uncle a bit of a rambling man, the kind that would have loose progeny falling out of the woodwork at his funeral?
Of the existent Heatons, we are the two. Yes. Uncle Dan is ostentatiously responsible. He is brazenly responsible. And all of his progeny fall into that camp as well, of like Jance, who's now a young man. When I first met him and he was like 5, I was like, "Hey, can I talk to your dad?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I started talking to him and was like, "You worried about school? That's coming up, right?" And I'm not making this up. This 5-year-old goes, "I'm more worried about calf prices." And I was like, "You're worried about the commodities market?" Gary, peace be upon him, was a carpenter and a handyman, which is a very real job. But he also was a rodeo announcer, and he liked dancing. And so he's the member of the family that I had the most overlap with. Of like, while still being very practical, there was a touch of whimsy to him that is largely absent from the rest of the family. I got all the whimsy genes in the family, but Gary had a touch of it. So I was hoping maybe bastard cousin.
Maybe.
No far, no luck.
Maybe.
You just said that you're not supposed to go into funerals with expectations. I have never heard that before.
It's a joke. You're not supposed to do psychedelic trips with expectations. Okay. I don't think that's actually a phrase for funerals. Yeah.
I was like, am I doing funerals wrong? So okay.
My dad, Jen, you'll love this. My dad slipped in supply and demand into the eulogy. It was a very
nice,
very Heaton funeral.
That's on brand.
Yeah.
Branded.
Very impressive. Yeah.
Hey Jen, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah,
Big
you guys actually
birthday.
know it's my birthday.
Absolutely. Well, that's one thing that we always do on the show. We always do on the show is we remember our co-host's birthday and mention them on the show. That's one thing that we always do no matter what. We show our love by remembering birthdays. That's a core element.
We've never missed one.
It's not like I sat next to you for 2.5 hours and didn't figure it out.
Well, apparently it didn't matter, but your birthday does. Your birthday does. And so happy birthday to you, Jen. Do you have any big plans today?
We are going to Dave and Buster's.
Both of them. Wow.
Yeah. We're going to see Dave and Buster. I'm very
excited.
Where
is the Dave and Buster's here in Austin?
It's actually pretty close to you. It's over on the south side. And we chose that because I have a group of friends that goes every Wednesday. You may not know this, but Wednesday is half off game night.
Damn.
Yeah, so we're cheap, and so we go on Wednesdays. And so because we already have a gathering, Joe and I just decided to make life easy, and we'll just do what we do on most Wednesdays.
On Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, you're not here because we had a COVID scare. There was COVID. My wife got COVID in San Francisco, but I never developed symptoms. The baby doesn't have symptoms, and now she's tested clean. So, but it was a little too late for you to. For us to re-invite you over for the recording.
Jen.
Yeah, it worked out. I played volleyball this morning and I played longer than I usually do, so I didn't have time to drive anyway. So thank you, Ashley, for getting COVID.
Okay.
That's her gift to you.
Hold on, Jen.
Yes,
Jen,
like
watch
it.
this.
Oh my God.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jen Briney. You fucking commie. I love you. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Oh my God. My dad is probably going to record that and play that for me over and over again. He has called me a commie my entire life. I love it so much. Thank you, Andrew. I didn't know that you had ukulele skills.
I lived in Brooklyn, and that's the law. So, picked up a little ukulele while I was living there in Brooklyn during my hipster days.
I lived in Hawaii, where ukuleles are everywhere, and didn't learn anything. So, I couldn't do that. Good job, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young, also from Austin, Texas.
I'm Jennifer Briney.
And from the District of Columbia,
I'm Andrew Heaton.
and we're not wrong. On this edition of the program, we're going to be talking about the Signal scandal in Washington, D.C., a group of the national security apparatus put a group chat together on Signal and accidentally included one of the Trump administration's fiercest critics. The fallout of that is still ongoing, but we will do our best to make our way through it. And then also, Harry Sisson. If you're not familiar with Harry Sisson, he is an influencer on the Democratic side. He is engulfed in a sexless sex scandal. It doesn't get more 2025 than what we are about to describe to you. If you thought that the Gen Z kids were having more fun, I assure you they're not. And we will go through all of that as well as your emails. Heaton, you are on the road again. You're going to be back down here, aren't you?
I'm going to be back down in Austin. Jen, I wanted to try and come in from your birthday. I couldn't make it out in time. There was going to be an attempt to fly in, but I wasn't able to do it. So I hope the ukulele suffices. But I'll be down in Austin for just a couple of days.
Anyway, we will be happy to see your shining face down here.
I'm going to get my hat.
Their loss is our gain.
Yeah, your hat is waiting for you.
Oh, and hold on. Wait a minute. Something else that just came in.
Ooh, another hat?
Oh, well, he goes and checks that out. I did finally open my Severance box because I watched the show. And so whoever sent me, it's a really cool little box. There was a lot of stuff in there, including a badge.
A very positive note, listener who sent that, we did a really funny Severance parody at Reason with some of my colleagues, and I was able to incorporate the gifts that you sent. So I have
the props.
Nice.
I have the name tag. I have the Lumen insignia. And so they were used. Thank you.
That's really cool.
Heaton, you mentioned that your eyebrows are withering
yes.
as time ravages them.
Yes.
Our dear listeners, the WNR faithful, would not sit by idly and have sent eyebrow wigs for you.
Excellent.
I knew they existed.
So you will have them when you come down here this week. You need to swing on by, grab your
my hat,
orange fedora, and your eyebrows.
My head merkins, as I will call them.
Exactly.
And, those look like proper Michael Dukakis level eyebrows right there, which is what I aspire to.
No, you got the Eugene Levy's.
Nice.
You got the best of the line.
Nice.
These are the Cadillacs of eyebrows.
Agreed.
They don't get more Greek than that.
His
it
eyebrows
is just gigantic
to the
caterpillars.
Super Bowl. They were that big.
They were that big.
So I assume we're going to see you in your new brows next Wednesday?
Always, yeah. From now on, yeah.
Love it. Can't
That's
wait.
it. We have now created a line item for Heaton's annual budget of head merkins. Let's talk about something that is all over the news right now. Indeed, it is currently, as we are speaking, the topic of various different congressional hearings. And that is National Security Advisor Mike Waltz inadvertently adding Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, to a Signal group chat where senior Trump administration officials discussed reportedly classified military plans for airstrikes against Houthi targets in Yemen. According to Goldberg, the leak exposed sensitive operational details, raising significant national security concerns. Despite the breach, President Trump expressed continued confidence in Waltz, who said that saying that Waltz had learned his lesson. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth denied that war plans were discussed and criticized Goldberg's reporting. The incident prompted calls for accountability and reviews of communication protocols for future breaches. This is evolving as we speak. Only an hour and change ago, Goldberg did publish what he said was holding back before, which were the war plans. What they were a timeline of when F-18s were launching and when Tomahawk missiles were launching. It seems like he stretched a little bit on saying that locations were involved. There were not locations that were involved in it, but still, at least to my eyes, especially in a very permissive classification structure, I don't think that there's much of a question if he called the DOD and said, hey, I'm running this before these times happen, that they would say that they were happy about it. But still, let's go around the horn on this. Jen Briney, who should be punished?
Every single one of them that was on that chat. I mean, it was so unbelievably inappropriate to be using Signal. And like the three of us use Signal to communicate. Like this is the type of dipshits that use this app. It's like
and real quick, Jen, we don't have nearly as strong as an emoticon game as these people do. Like did you read it? The fist American flag explosion?
Fire. Yeah.
Yeah. They really fisted the Houthis,
they did.
which I think was the goal.
They did. Mm-hmm. And we know exactly when.
Yeah. But there was a lot revealed in this. I did read the follow-up that was only released about an hour ago. So I've seen the actual text chain, and the amount of detail that was in there about the attack, 100% without a doubt, puts our troops in danger, because this reporter, had he been someone else, like they didn't know he was on the chat somehow, which is crazy. Apparently they were trying to add the US trade representative for like reasons, and they got the reporter instead. But the fact that there was anybody else on that chain and knew 2 hours before the attack, if this is someone who wanted to stop the attack, they had plenty of time to either put online that it was going to happen or contact people on the other side of this and warn that, like, there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong by having anyone outside of secure, secure channels. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, it was unbelievably reckless. I think Waltz and Hegseth in particular, those were the two where I was like, first of all, Waltz is the one that created the group chat, but Hegseth was really loose with the information he was putting on there.
We don't know exactly where the creation of the group is, right? It was Goldberg that was added.
We all know it was Waltz at this point, that he was the one that created it and added Goldberg. So we do know that it was the National Security Advisor that did that. Okay. But it's there was just a lot there that we learned too about why the Trump administration is doing things. Like one of the issues that I'm having with the entire debate right now is everyone's like, should they have been talking about this on Signal? Where it's like, yeah, that's one part of this. How about we also talk about, should they have been bombing Yemen? Like, like the fact that we are not at war with Yemen, despite the fact we've been bombing them for a decade. In this chat, we got to see more information about why the bombing happened. And for people that don't know the backstory on this, the Houthis have been essentially trying to defend Gaza by shutting down the traffic in the Red Sea. So the Israeli government
and they're pirates.
Of course, they are. But this is their reasoning. Like they weren't shutting down the Red Sea. This is the new,
the
Red Sea was open during the ceasefire, and then Israel, they reneged on their part of the deal, and they haven't allowed any supplies into Gaza for almost a month now. And so the Houthis have resumed bombing the Red Sea. It's making it very difficult for international commerce. Mm-hmm. And so when you look in the group chat, this is what they were discussing. It wasn't like there was an emergency situation where we had to bomb Yemen or there were any Americans that were in danger. That was not a part of the calculus here. And so to go around Congress and be bombing Yemen so that trade is reopened, I don't think that meets the standard of allowing emergency bombings of a country we're not at war with. And just the fact that for the last 25 years, we seem to have just allowed bombings of anyone, anywhere, it still doesn't make it okay. And what's really disturbing to me is that doesn't even seem to be a part of this conversation, because that was really revelatory to me. The fact that there was no emergency
Vance said that
here.
They shouldn't do it.
Vance, yeah, but his reasoning wasn't, because we haven't gone to Congress. Like that was not why.
No, it was not. It was not. But I mean, if you're talking about that it was not talked about. It was discussed on whether or not they should or shouldn't do it. Not for the reasons that you would be happy with.
Exactly. I mean, Vance was like, well, we can wait a month for this. We don't have to do it now. We need to get our messaging in order. It was not, we are not at war with this country and we have not gotten authorization from Congress. That was not a part of the conversation at all.
You're
and
right.
I think
Yes, that was not. Yeah.
Yeah, that was super disturbing to me. And it's more disturbing to me how little that's been factored into the national conversation. But yeah, this was a huge, huge national security breach. And, but I mean, I think all accountability starts at the top, right? And so Donald Trump is a guy who was keeping classified information in his toilet. And so I'm not terribly surprised that his underlings are not being all that careful and that there's no accountability for it. It's just, this is a reckless administration. This is just another example of it.
Heaton?
Once again, Jen has failed to see a brilliant maneuver in 4D chess that has been executed by the crack shots and the Trump team. This was all planned. This was a attempt to back channel to Europe that we are not taking their freeloading anymore. And the execution was executed flawlessly. Also,
I just drowned my computer.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Do we need to pause?
Sorry, guys.
it's
So
okay.
dumb.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's fine. Anyway, Jen, let's talk about how you're not allowed to make mistakes with technology.
What I will tell you is if anyone wants to buy me a birthday gift, I could use a MacBook Pro and a sippy cup.
Conversely, Jen, I think I'm going to send you a baggie full of water. I'll just send a baggie full of water to Justin's house, earmarked to you.
Yeah.
So here's
the jokes are going to come.
Yep,
I feel
fine.
it. Yeah.
all right. Here's my take on all this. Number one, no phone privileges for a month, Mike Waltz. You've done it this time. You are not the biggest thing here, full stop. Absolutely. This cannot happen is that you have a group chat, even if the Trump administration has said that their computer security organization, CISA, has okayed Signal for non-confidential communications. And that's what they are claiming that was. Even in that case, you cannot add somebody that you are totally aware of. And by the way, Signal has a lot of tools built in to ensure that you are talking to the person that you believe you are. They have specialized serial numbers for everybody that's there. They have specific usernames that you can check and click in on. There's a reason why Signal is used by reporters and hackers primarily, because of the off-the-rack solutions. It has the most tools, so you can be assured that you are talking to who you believe you're talking to. Does that mean that it's totally secure? Absolutely not. But of the off-the-rack solutions, it is. That being said, it doesn't matter if you're not using those tools. And they were not using those tools, because if they believed that Jeffrey Goldberg was somebody else, then they were mistaken. Here's the other part. It was Jeffrey Goldberg. And if you're not familiar with Jeffrey Goldberg, let me refresh your memory. The Atlantic is essentially, I think, borderline a fan fiction body of work these days that is in opposition to Donald Trump, nearly specifically. Jeffrey Goldberg has his byline most recently, when it comes to Trump, authored the article about him, Trump, calling veterans suckers and losers when he didn't want to go visit a graveyard in Europe. Now, that is something that has been very much pushed back on by the Trump administration. They very much dispute that anything like that ever happened. Jeffrey Goldberg also, if we want to go further back in the Rolodex, was one of the authors of the New York Times reporting that got us into the war in Iraq. So however you want to classify Jeffrey Goldberg's acumen for reporting and journalism and his ability to stretch the truth, spice to taste when it comes to all that. He has now released what he said was held back before. I think that it is credible to say that he stretched the truth on some of his categorizations of things. He said that the CIA officer that Ratliff put forward was an undercover in the field officer. It was apparently Ratliff's chief of staff. He said that there were locations of what was happening. There were not locations of what was happening. There were times and equipment. Now, that is something that in our very broad classification process, I believe would probably fall under the tag of classified. So I don't push back on whether or not that was quote unquote classified information, because I'm sure somebody would have called it that. What it actually reminded me of, and this is what I would be curious to go to somebody like Brett Baer or people who are like actual Pentagon reporters, is it reminded me of the kind of stuff that those reporters probably get at about the same time, because they are trusted sources that can go on television immediately after bombs explode and say, I'm hearing from my sources that this was Tomahawk missiles and F-18s that were going after a Houthi target at X amount of time, right? Like, it read like somebody who was doing a television hit right after that was happening. So I don't know if that information is the kind of stuff that never gets out or never should get out. But Jeffrey Goldberg, of all people, it wasn't your ex-college roommate. It wasn't your mom. It wasn't your dog sitter. It was Jeffrey Goldberg that you added to that group chat. That is something that is unforgivable. And I think internally, Mike Waltz is somebody who is probably on thin ice, no matter how much they don't want to give their enemies a scalp here. I can't imagine that Mike Waltz is more trusted in this administration today than he was before this article hit.
I mean, maybe they should have thought of that before they elevated a dipshit congressman to national security advisor.
Hey, listen, gang. One, Mike Waltz is a hero when it comes to emoticons. He is great at emoticons. I think we can all agree on this.
He is. That fist, flag, fire. He is.
And need I remind you, punch fire in the America is the motto of the 5th Airborne Division that was just sent to kill those Houthis. So, like, all very much on brand. Justin, I'm shocked and appalled that you are also being sucked into this 4D chess. They've apparently gotten to you as well. And also the fact that Mike Waltz misspelled the word principles in the principal strike group that was formed.
All right, we're gonna get on texting spell check. Really?
Okay. This is my thing. In reading, I find this all so goddamn funny.
Yes.
This is so funny. This is like Veep level funny.
It is the VPest scandal in years.
This is the VPest scandal in years. The thing that I am so struck by is, like, how do I put this? Sometimes I will meet somebody or I will interview them, and I will walk away and go, holy fuck, they are significantly smarter than me. I am glad that I got a good night's sleep and some coffee, because I was barely able to keep up with that lady. And none of the people on that chain struck me that way. Like, they struck me as just kind of regular people on a group thing. I think, Jen, you had a similar comment to that. Like, it kind of felt like our Signal group with the emoticons and shit. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, when triumphant Roman generals would parade through the streets of Rome and have this triumph, there would be a man that would stand next to the general and say, "You're just a mortal. You're just a mortal." And, like,
thou art mortal.
I don't need to be reminded right now that these people are mortal. I don't think that they are wizards of it. I don't know that they're significantly dumber than me, but I don't think they're significantly smarter than me. And I also I used to pee next to Pete Hegseth in the bathroom, like at Fox. Like, I'm very aware he's a guy.
Were you peeping?
Huh? No.
Were you peeping?
Hey, you know what?
You weren't meat peeping on Hegseth?
Of the
peeping on Heggy?
Of the inappropriate things that I did at Fox Business, looking at the junk of men in the bathroom was not one of them. But
I need to ask. I'm a journalist.
Struck me as a broadcaster. I'll put it, struck me as a very handsome talker, was my interpretation of Pete Hegseth, not as a brilliant analytical defensive mind. He might be. I'm just saying that's
he did not, to me, he does not come off as, I mean, obviously he is going to be held to a higher level of scrutiny because he looks more like an underwear model than he does like George Patton. But he did not come off as bad to me in this scenario. I think Waltz is the one who comes off like a class A.
Waltz should step down. Like, Waltz should step down, because this is such a colossal fuck up in terms of Nobody on our team died as a result of this, but it's a big security misstep for Walz, and the buck stops with him if it was somebody from his team. And so he should step down. He's the national security advisor. This is a national security issue.
Yeah, I will say that while I probably have a more I don't have as withering a take as either of the two of you to this. The one thing where the buck absolutely stops with me, the line that I will not cross, is any insinuation that this was anything other than Waltz's fat fingers adding a gigantic liability in Jeffrey fucking Goldberg to a group chat that was at the highest level of national security.
Can I add
that is his fault. Anything that's like, oh, he might have been hacked. We don't know. How on earth did that happen?
Get out with that. The defenses of this that I've been saying, granted, a lot of them have been on Twitter, which I do not think is America's brain trust. But a lot of the defenses that I've seen of this have been amazingly bad takes. Like, there was a significant amount of pushback of like, well, we don't even know if it's real or not. And like, I mean,
it was confirmed. It was confirmed in the first Atlantic article that it was real.
It was, and it was confirmed by the National Security Council. Like, it was confirmed by the Trump administration. While Pete Hegseth was doing an interview, going like, maybe this didn't. I think if I were on Team Trump, if I were on Team Trump, I would go. Somebody fucked up, and this is a good opportunity for Trump to fire somebody. He's good at that, and show that they will make a break with the prior administration on maintaining incompetency out of loyalty to individuals. Like Mike should step down, and Pete should get, I think, probably a tongue lashing, because Pete Hegseth does fucking know better. And I know that because I watched his coverage of all the similar shit going on with Hillary Clinton from 2016. So he is well fucking aware of what the security classifications are, what you do with things that are considered classified or sensitive material. He is aware of all that shit. So even if he shouldn't get knocked out by Congress and toppled from his position, he should definitely get a talking to. But the nobody did anything wrong perspective that I keep hearing, I think that this is a good opportunity for somebody to go, there was a fuck up, let's put responsibility where it lies, have that person step down and move on, as opposed to this weird 40 chess stuff that I'm hearing.
So when the recklessness of Walz starts right from his labeling and his phone. Because, when I use Signal and I'm trying to reach out to you guys, it says Justin Robert Young. It says Andrew Heaton. I know who I'm reaching out to. If you look at the list of the names, because Goldberg put that in the stuff he released this morning, he has Marco Rubio in there as MAR, and in the group chat, MAR is in there twice. Tulsi Gabbard yesterday in that hearing was denying, well, she didn't deny it, but she wouldn't answer whether or not she was in the group chat, but there's someone in there as TG. So it's if you're abbreviating the names of human beings, that is just such a basic, he's not even making sure they're the right people if he doesn't even have their names in the goddamn app.
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, there are protocols for this. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if the Trump administration had greenlit internal use of Signal for specific things, but
I will say I know internally with the Trump administration they are all on Signal. That I can say that I know that for a fact.
Well, the standard protocol for classified information that has national security implications with a high risk of people dying or anything like that, which I think would be anything under national security classified information, is that there are these almost special booths that they have. Where if you're a cabinet secretary or one of these positions, SCIFs, where it's installed in your house, where it's a secured line, you don't have to worry about it. It's encrypted, all that stuff. It's been verified by all of the people that want to do it. And it looks to me like they were playing fast and loose with this, where they were like, yeah, Signal's fine. And not going through the actual proper, for example, SCIF, this system, probably would have had some fucker checking to see if Jeffrey Goldberg were in on it.
Well, Jeffrey Goldberg would not be offered the ability to join the SCIF. Yeah.
Good. Well, that's part of why you use the SCIF for this shit.
Well,
so
again,
you don't actually add Jeffrey fucking Goldberg.
Look, there were tools within Signal that they could tell that was not the JG that they wanted. They did not use the tools within Signal. So one thing I do want to push back against is the idea that Signal is a secure. There are reasons why people use Signal. They did not use the tools within Signal. So it's like, should they have been able to, should they have done it? I don't know. Apparently CISA says that they were able to use it for for non-classified stuff. I tend to think that the stuff that is the most hotly contested in there is probably stuff that they are giving to reporters on background anyway. That being said, you can't put people in the group chat that you don't know. That is the problem here. The biggest problem here is that Mike Waltz added Jeffrey Goldberg to this group chat. That is the unforgivable sin, in my opinion.
I don't know. I don't love the fact that they're using Signal to discuss these things to begin with, because I do know, and you can see it, like Goldberg was able to see it, that they have it set for those messages to disappear. And we have laws here that
in terms of
everything
congressional record, yes,
they're supposed to be
yes.
they're supposed to be saving the records. And so at the end of these group chats, the way that they can comply is that when it's all over, you download the whole thing and you submit it. But if those messages have disappeared, that's not possible. So I also see this as like they might be breaking the law.
That is a good point.
Yeah, I think they might be. Like, again, I was at Fox Business when the whole Hillary server thing was happening. And I can tell you, people at Fox were real aware of what the law was involving Hillary Clinton's server at that time, including Pete Hegseth. And the general consensus was that Hillary Clinton, while Secretary of State, had set up a private server so that she could have complete control of all of the available records that could be used against her. And she was stepping outside of the law in terms of public documents in order to protect her own political career. I agreed with that then. I thought that was what was going on. And so like, are we doing Signal, making all these things disappear so that they're not in the record? That is a breach of federal archivist law.
I would agree with that. I think that anything that is being discussed from a professional or a administration level capacity should be kept as part of public records. And so like anything that's deleting automatically that is not being submitted before those deletions, that is a problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on this? Anything that we want to leave with?
The only other thing I noticed, and I just find this interesting, is that they said that no one knows who the Houthis are in their texts. And so when they were like, well, no one really knows who the Houthis are, so we just have to make sure with messaging that we're saying that they're Iran funded. And so I just find that interesting. They're like, because I hear the Iran funded thing all the time. But if you don't know who these people are, how do you know who their contacts are? How do you know where the funding comes from? So it's interesting, the behind the curtain that we got to see in the text of it, like the reason they went to war, what they actually think about the Houthis. That was some fascinating stuff.
Well, and we might add to this that the three of us that are on this program are American. If I were European, I wouldn't feel terrific right now.
No.
In that I think Pete Hegseth, I don't remember what it was, but it was like all caps, I hate the Europeans or
he
whatever.
Called them
Hold on, let me find this.
In all caps.
Yeah, but like all
the
caps.
freeloading. He found the freeloading pathetic. Yeah. That was Vance's. Vance's argument was that the vast majority of the shipping lanes that they would be keeping clear is for Europe, not for America, and that we would be doing a thing for Europe without any kind of payback for it.
Which, by the way, kind of a legitimate point there, but I think I would have phrased it better than it's pathetic in all caps and all of that, and this has now been...
In a private group chat?
If fucking Jeffrey Greenberg was on it?
Well, again, they don't know that Jeffrey Greenberg is on it.
Yeah.
It just shows you how anti-European, especially Vance is, which is very weird. I don't know why they would be so anti-Europe, but just the fact that it wasn't like they wanted to reopen the Red Sea. It was like, they'll reopen it, but it's a favor for Europe. And if we're going to do this, we're going to extract something from them. It's a really weird phrasing of the whole thing. And, again, it just proves to me that we were not in an emergency
their philosophy
situation.
isn't America second.
Yeah, but this isn't America first either. They actually went through with the bombing while acknowledging that this really doesn't do much for us. So America first, it also was exposed as bullshit because.
But that was Vance's point.
Yeah,
that was Vance's point in these deliberations.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I think there's something very twisted with how much JD Vance hates Europe. Like, they've been our allies for a really long time. They've gone to war with us after 9/11. So it's just the anti-Europe streak in this administration. I find it bizarre, and just to see that it's real in what they think are private chats. I just find it weird. It's just a weird thing another weird thing in a weird administration.
I like Europe, but I kind of get some of the criticism, and that I think that there's a rational take to make of America has disproportionately shouldered the defense burden of Europe over the last 50 years. They have a larger population than we do, and that some of their glorious social safety net has come explicitly because we've been taking care of their military commitments to a great extent. And so I kind of get that. Like I did have an interesting conversation with somebody that told me that my numbers are wrong on that, and I want to explore that more. But that kind of like, look, we're funding Europe's defense. That I can understand that position.
Which is fine, but like all caps, like they're pathetic. Like, and we know that we're ramping up a trade war against them, and it's bizarre the way we're treating our allies.
Yes, I don't disagree
in a private group chat.
And publicly. It matches what they say publicly. It is true.
It's weird. You do know that there's not a lot of artifice there. That they are what they say in public and private.
Yeah, I was going to say the Europeans were already aware of this, in case anybody's curious.
Yeah.
The Europeans were not like, I met with a delegation of Swedish journalists recently. Did I tell you guys about this?
No.
I met with some Swedish journalists here in D.C. It was really funny, by the way, because they came in and I was like, so, like, tell me about yourselves. And they're like, well, we are from Sweden, and these terms will not make sense to you, but where we are from, we would say we are liberal conservatives. But when we say liberal, we mean John Stuart Mill. He was an Englishman. Are you familiar with him? And when we say conservative, we mean like Burke, Edmund Burke. And I was like, Jesus Christ, can I move to Sweden tomorrow? These like, you guys are using the terms right. Congratulations. And they were fucking terrified about what's going on. They were very, very worried about being invaded by Russia. They were very, very worried about American commitments. All of my European friends are freaking out.
It's fair.
Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong is where you need to go if you want to support this show. This week we will be talking about Jen storming Congress.
Not exactly, but
do you have anything to fill? I have no idea what this is about.
I have a friend whose business is he's anticipating it being hit so hard with tariffs that he's afraid that 6 months from now his entire business will go down. And so I just I was going to do this at lunch with you, Justin, but I figured we could do it on air because it's like I have some questions about what should my friend do. Like we're kind of plotting maybe going to some congressional offices. So I also want to talk to you guys about the options that we have here in Austin because Austin is shattered into 5 different districts. So I just wanted to talk it out with you guys. And I feel like I don't think my friend is the only one who's nervous about getting hit by these tariffs. So I think the conversation would be just good to have.
Sure. Well, you've never excited Heaton more than saying he is greenlit to talk for another 40 minutes about tariffs. And you can join in that excitement. What the
fuck is happening?
Harry Sisson is a 23-year-old Democratic TikTok influencer with over 1.8 million followers and is facing allegations from nearly a dozen women who claim that he manipulated them into sharing explicit photos via Snapchat. Accusers, including Carly Horsch, assert that Sisson feigned exclusive relationship status to solicit intimate images, only to later dismiss their concerns and call them insane when confronted. Despite his public advocacy for women's rights, these allegations have sparked widespread criticism of Sisson's behavior. As of now, he has not publicly responded to the accusations. Mr. Andrew Heaton, is it possible to have a sex scandal without the sex?
Sure, you can have a scandal without the sex. Anthony Weiner was utterly destroyed as a political figure and, in fact, did some jail time and never had sex with anybody. He sent pictures to people he shouldn't have, and I think ultimately somebody that was underage, which got him the jail time.
Yeah.
But when he stepped down for Congress, which point he hadn't done anything illegal at that time. When he stepped down from Congress, he had just couldn't quit sexting people and kept getting in trouble for it. So, yeah, you can do that. In terms of a scandal level thing here, for a 23-year-old that I regard as the Justin Bieber of partisan hacks, I do not think that this...
I don't know if that's a compliment.
It is not a compliment.
Okay.
It is not a compliment.
He was very popular, Justin Bieber.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
he was
go
a
ahead.
cute little piece of shit, wasn't he? You know what? Hold on. Can I just back up and
Go.
Jen and Justin, I beg of you some breathing room for unsolicited Heaton biopics for a moment that will contextualize this. Okay.
Please.
So I don't think I've told you this before. When I was right out of college, members of the Oklahoma House of Representatives tried to recruit me to run for office in Oklahoma. And I had been working at that since high school, in every conceivable political organization I could be in, anything that was related to being a future leader, future politician, mock government, all that stuff. I was doing that. I was planning to run for office, start in the state legislature, run for Congress once I'd done that for a while. That was the plan. And I had a couple people that I knew that were in the House that reached out to me and took me out to lunch. And they went, hey, we think we have a seat that would be vulnerable that you could run for. And we would love for you to step up and do that. The guy's a Republican. He's an incumbent, but he's a wife beater and Hispanic. So you might have a shot and you might be able to do it. We think you've got a decent shot and we think you'd be really good at it. And we would love for you to come in. And I thought about it, and I was 23, same age as Harry Sisson is right now. I thought about it and I went, you know, I have never had a job longer than a summer job. I've never paid property taxes. I don't have any kids. I don't know anything about school districts. It would be hubristic of me at this point in my life to think that I should be making decisions over other people's lives. I do not have that level of experience. And I turned it down. And I said, I'm really flattered, but I don't think that this is something that I should do. And I think it would be a disservice to the people that I would theoretically represent if I pulled it off. And that was probably a career mistake. If it had happened, I'm sure it would have been great for me in terms of everything I'm doing. But I think it was the right decision as a man. And I think that Harry Sisson has an opportunity right now to think about his own trajectory. And my advice to him, if he were listening, would be to say, hey, you're very charismatic and you are a hack. You are using your innate charm and powers to just be a hack. You're not contributing anything beyond Republicans are dumb, Democrats are great. It's very rudimentary, vapid, partisan simpering. And now would be a great time for you at the beginning of what's probably a very promising career to think about how you can have a little bit more depth of character professionally and personally. So maybe take a breather and go work in something else for a while and come back, because you're going to have that audience there. But at the moment, with or without the sex scandal, I think that you're a net negative in terms of American discourse. And, don't be a little prick in terms of the other stuff.
Jen?
I mean, I've never heard of this kid, but I mean, if you're appealing to his character, the fact that he's even trying to solicit all these nudie pics from people he's pretending to be exclusive with, he just sounds like a dirtbag. And I don't know if that's a career thing. Maybe he's just a dirtbag. I am curious about the girls though, because why is it that women keep taking pictures of themselves and sending it to people over the internet and then are shocked when things happen? Have you guys ever sent a nudie pic to anyone? I never have.
No.
Andrew, you're the single one. I don't
never
think
taken
Justin
a
and I would do
picture.
it.
I've received pictures.
Who are these crazy?
I've received pictures, but hold on. But generally, the pictures that I received, and I think that this is the right thing to do, are such where I know who they are, and I'm thrilled to get this picture, but they don't have the face in it, or they have half the face.
Yeah.
It's something where you shouldn't send anything to anybody where if they got hacked, you would be embarrassed. Let's just assume whoever you're sending a naked picture to is a good guy. It's not going to do anything with it. You could get hacked. If they got hacked, would this be embarrassing? So don't send anything where you're yeah, that's totally a full-on nude of me. Do crop it.
These people that are sending these pictures to an internet personality, I think there is some onus on them to look at their own behavior as well. It's such a dumb thing to do, and we keep having these scandals.
Well, all right, so these women, and if you've watched the videos, of which I've seen 2 of them at this point, this is not just fan oh my God, I think you're amazing, Harry. Look at my boobies. It is, they knew each other in real life. They hooked up when they were around. The difference was that they felt that they were on the more serious end of what is called by the kids these days a situationship, and that they were more likely to be in a relationship, but they weren't, and they felt that he was kind of stringing them along, but was also a little aggressive about asking for titty pics.
It's still, don't send them. Don't send them.
Also, don't watch the little shit. Again, he's Justin Bieber of partisan simpering. Like, this is there are people that I disagree with where I'm like, that's an interesting perspective. I've never seen that from him. Everything is just really shitty. Republicans are dumb. Democrats are good. Like, not even in a smart way.
So Jen, he became famous because in a TikTok landscape that was becoming more and more representative from men as being Trump friendly, he was the line in the sand. I'm a 23-year-old Gen Z person. Joe Biden is the best president that's ever existed, and I'm voting for Joe Biden. And then he left, and Kamala Harris like, Kamala Harris is the best, most qualified person to ever be president, and I'm voting for Kamala Harris. He was a true blue, no matter what, voice that very much found himself in that machine. He was folded very neatly into the Democratic propaganda machine, of which, you know, there are many. The influencer class is large. Brooklyn Dad Defiant and JoJo from Jers. There's a whole rogues gallery, much as there is on the right, of people that will just, no matter what, defend their team and dunk on the other side. That is a part of politics these days. He was the TikTok version of that on the left. According to one of the ladies that was upset about things, things started to come unraveled when he was not as sympathetic to the Palestinian cause as some of the girls for whom were sending titty pictures. And so they would criticize him for the stance on Israel. And then he would say in response, cool, but can I see your titties? And so that was that case.
Yeah, I just, God, I wish this would knock him out. I don't. Here, I know. That
he. By the way, there is an advancement on this story. He did get dropped by his talent agency.
Really?
Yeah. The talent agency that largely handles Democratic influencers dropped him yesterday.
God, maybe I am in favor of cancellation. But this, to be clear on this, and I know I'm not going to get my wish. I wish there were like maybe 30 people we're talking heads in politics, of which 3 are Yumi and Jin. I think we're really overloaded at hacks. We're very overloaded in reflexively defensive red team or blue team fuckwits. I think in the previous story, we saw a lot of that with Hegseth and them, of just a lot of conservatives going into Pravda mode and like, nope, everything's great. It's always been great, 100%. And like, that little shit's on the other side of it. I don't like it on that side either. So I hope this knocks him out and he gets a real job.
That being said, I don't know who's less likable in this scenario. Like, either this dude who is just about as slimy a partisan hack as you possibly can, even at 23, right? So it's hard to damn people when they're in their early 20s. I'm sure I would not like my least favorable elements in my early 20s to be broadcast and for people to make a moral judgment. But that being said, right now, he's not a particularly likable person. And for the record, neither is the SSRI chomping shrew brigade that is saying like, oh my God, I feel so horrifyingly taken advantage of because I willingly sent nudie pictures to this dude who was very clearly just a partisan creep. You want to know what should be an example for a lot of people that are watching? Maybe don't define a potential mate entirely on their politics, because even if you totally agree with them on their politics, they may well be a slimy dude that just wants to collect as many titty pictures as possible and move on with their lives. Now, whether or not he had sex with them, look, there's a whole different world that I am just not hip to.
There's also,
you know, I'm an old man who, I was out before online dating. I was out before app-based dating, let alone whatever fresh hell is happening to these kids these days.
Yeah, I mean, we would need to know more details to make these assessments, but we can say that there's a difference between like illegality versus I don't know, like legal but horrible predation versus just being kind of scummy. Like if there's a congressman who cheats on his girlfriend, that's scummy. I don't like it, but like,
Yeah.
you're not in the level of like, of like, I don't like swinging by battered women's shelters to take emotionally abused women to like put in your harem or something, right? Like there's like, this strikes me on the,
we should make a
understandable
scale.
range of scumminess for a 23-year-old influencer. This does not. It sadly doesn't strike me as career-ending level material. It strikes me as 23-year-old that has a lot of attention is having to get as many boob pictures as he can. I am not terribly surprised by this.
That being said, he might be making his living in the last place where you could get canceled like that. Like,
Well,
I don't know many other places where it's like, oh, a bunch of women are upset with me that they sent booby pictures.
Yeah.
And now, but that is one of those places, like the super hardcore blue, no matter
if you
who.
were, if you were like ESPN or something, it'd be like, of course.
No,
he's
there
doing
were
this.
people on the right that were like, welcome, Harry. Come on over to our side. Like, this wouldn't even be a thing. You would have women that would come out of the woodwork and say, hey, gay, shut up, bimbos. You're the one who sent the titty pictures. Nobody cares.
Yes, I think there's probably something to that. And then like there too, like when I was in New York, there were a few guys that I met. There were multiple guys that I met that I think were very strong feminists that meant what they said. There were also several comedians that I met that were very strong feminists that were using that as a way to fuck women. Like that were like, you know what would be empowering? If you put my dick in your mouth, I'm empowering your sexuality when I come in you. Like they come in all forms. And, so like,
I knew before this was a term of art, I knew a feminist ally for whom racked up a Civil War level body count. That would his opening line would be, oh my God, I love your jeans. He was a very skinny guy. He was like, I love your jeans. I would love to borrow them. Mm-hmm. And he would literally that was his like opening to be like, oh, I'm understanding of women's fashion. I understand what kind of jeans they are. I'm going to put on your jeans. And then also we're going to have sex. And he did that to great effect, to tremendous effect.
Can we, and so I want to make with Harry, young Harry here. What he's being accused of is there are multiple women. I think that there was a ambiguous situation where no one had definitively said we are an exclusive relationship. There were multiple women who had inferred that they were in an exclusive relationship or had been led to take that. And it turns out that they were all sending him nude pics and or having sex with him. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. And obviously we are only dealing with the receipts that the women are putting out there. He has not come out.
This bit is kind of minor on the heat and scandal side.
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, again, it's kind of a sexless sex scandal. We don't even know, there's nobody saying if we're going to actually create a hierarchy, we should actually spend a weekend actually doing this one day and just saying like, all right, from I kissed a staffer and immediately apologized to my wife. That's like the lowest level to I have had multiple abortions with like people in my orbit and I've lied about it and I've used campaign money to cover it up. Right. Uh-huh. Like if we're going to do that, this is on the lower end of it. Like he's a single man. He's a young man. They're young women. They are engaged in modern flirtation, modern relationships that include things like nudes. Like this is a bit of a for the streets folly that is being launched into the mainstream because of his position as a celebrity. So part of this is, hey, when you are a famous person, yes, you have more access to women, and you have to be understanding that at any one moment, their story of oh my God, this guy that I was flirting with turns out to be a scumbag is going to be a lot more interesting to more people because you're famous. And especially if you're famous on a partisan level where there's going to be a huge swath, millions of people that know your name and hate you that would love to make your life worse. You are going to put yourself in a situation where that is what it is. And so he has probably learned a bit of a lesson. There's some other elements to this that we didn't put into this segment, including one of the things that a lot of the women were upset about is that a business partner of Harry Sisson seems to be a bit of a scumbag and a sociopath that might have been flirting with young underage boys. And there's a question of when Harry distanced himself from him. And then also, we don't know if Harry Sisson is a citizen of the United States. That is something that we don't know. He has been listed as an Irish citizen that was raised in Singapore before he moved to New York. And so he might not actually be an American citizen. So he might have not been able to vote for Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. But I don't feel that there's enough.
So you have been lying about it?
Yeah. But I don't know if I didn't feel comfortable with the reporting on that to bring that into the main. What we do know now is that there are women that are very upset with him and say that they have sent nudes, and there's enough receipts that have been put out there of Snapchat conversation that seems to back that up, even if the larger, messier conversation is when and where should that be appropriate.
Yeah, I went off. I made lots of anti-cancellation things, statements the last few years, and I think that if this were in a different context, I would be like, hey, this is probably not sufficient to ruin someone's career over, even if they're scummy. Like, dude cheats on his girlfriend's not necessarily he can't ever work again level infraction. But man, I have a hard time being sympathetic to this little squirt, little King Joffrey of simpering. I'm just not. No, I have a difficult time. Go work on a tractor for 5 years, you fuck. God, I hate that kid.
Well, right. This is a lot of anger for this child.
Have you watched his video? Like,
he's an insufferable little shrew.
I just wrote a fucking book called Tribalism is Dumb. Do you know who's a fucking tribalist? This charismatic little shit. So, like,
how much of this is because he's being rewarded with money and pussy while being the most tribal that you possibly can?
And he's cuter, and he's younger. There's all sorts of reasons that I dislike the guy.
Oh, this is a very Snow White situation. This should have been the Snow White reboot instead of making it socialist.
Yeah. Maybe so.
Did you hear about that? The Snow White, the new Snow White?
No.
So the new Snow White is out. It's not done well in the box office, and there was a bunch of stuff that is in the ether about whether or not they were trying to replace the 7 dwarves with 7 bandits and blah, blah, blah. But the one thing that we do know that is in the movie for sure is that, of course, who's the fairest of them all is the central conflict in Snow White between the evil queen and Snow White. In this version, fairest does not mean beautiful. It means fair as in a fair and living wage, a fair distribution of resources, and that Snow White is more moral in a communal sense than the evil queen, who is more materialistic.
So why would the evil queen give a fuck then? If like the evil queen's more materialistic and not fair, and she's like, but tell me I'm fair?
You're going to have to see the movie.
So,
you're going to have to see the movie to figure it out. I have not seen the movie, but I do know that is real. Who's the fairest of them all? That is the imagining of that line. So it's not just an old woman being mad that a younger woman is prettier than her.
Who? Okay. So, our friend Musa Algarbe, in his book, he talks about how there's this cycle that happens where an institution will materialize. People left out of the institution, this is Musa talking, people that aren't able to get into the institution go, it's a horrible institution, it's immoral, we will go form our own institution.
Yeah.
And when it takes a political element, that's when the conservatives start up. According to Musa, like you can't get into CNN, what happens? You form Fox and you create like an alternate universe vertical where you're like, we're not those people. We're the good people, right? And I'm like, hasten the fucking day when that happens to Hollywood. I would love it if, like, I don't care if it's conservative or not. I just want there to be something that, like,
I mean, that's YouTube. That's social media. I mean, that's where that energy and that money and that talent is gone, is, you know, to a lot of stuff on YouTube, both in terms of short fiction and short films and documentaries for sure. You know, those have flourished in the form of long form essays and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I would love for there to be something making films, because Snow White rebooted where they get rid of the dwarves because that's, I assume, offensive, and fairest means social justice. That, like, I have really, really done a good job of avoiding the siren's call of putting on a fucking red hat and going full Trump. But Jesus, Hollywood, are you trying? Are you trying to make me like?
Yeah. So the big controversy was back when this was shot several years ago, that there was a colorful group. This is in B-roll of United Colors of Benetton. Everybody was an appropriate race and gender. 7 groups of bandits, right? And so that is in the movie. That Prince Charming is now more of a Robin Hood character that is very evenly redistributing the queen's greed to the people. But there's 7 bandits. Why are there 7 bandits? Well, some theorized that in an earlier version of the script, they were going to replace the 7 dwarves, because why on earth would you have 7 bandits? But then the picture of the bandits got out. It created its own crazy situation. And so they have CGI dwarves that look like weird versions of the animated thing. So Snow White still goes to a house and she still meets hi ho, off to work we go dwarves, but they're CGI. They're not real actors. And there's also 7 bandits. So we don't know, at least now, whether or not the dwarves were added because the reaction to the bandits was so poor. We don't know why they were CGI and not actual actors, if the whole point of this is that they're doing a live action version of Snow White, which, unlike The Lion King, involves humans that are doing things. Dwarves actually exist in society. So yeah, there's a lot of controversy, but apparently none of it has made people want to go see it at the box office, as it earned less money than Joker 2, which was looked at as one of the most. Oh my God,
that was horrible. I watched half of that, and then I was like, yes, that was. Well, maybe Harry Sisson could become like an insufferable child actor type character. Yeah, and like go be insufferable in another field for a little bit.
I would love it if he just flipped sides and just everybody on the right just accept it. He just went full, dude, dark Harry Sisson arc. Let's go. I'm here for that arc. I think I've painted myself into a corner, Justin. I'm still going to have to hate the kid. But, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
But
we're not wrong. pod@gmail.com. That's where you can write into the show. Jen had to drop out. So Jen is not just being quiet uncharacteristically. No, she had technical problems that we did our best to soldier through for the portion of the episode when we could. But please send her happy birthday wishes.
Also,
we're not wrong. pod@gmail.com.
Justin's covering for our colleague. Jen texted me this morning and said, "I don't want to do this. It's my birthday." And I was like, "Jen, can you just do this? It's a regular day." And she's like, "I'm half a mind to pretend to spill a glass of water on my laptop so I can get out of this." And I was like, "Jen, don't do that." And she did it. And so let's all give her slack. It's her birthday, but she didn't want to be here.
It is her birthday. The likely number 1 pick in the NBA draft is a BattleBots nerd, writes. With March Madness upon us, I just thought that you might get a kick out of this. A couple years ago, I ran a statewide robot competition with Cooper Flagg against Senator Angus King and Ed Commissioner Macon. By the way, Cooper Flagg won. Heaton, being the sports fan that you are, Cooper Flagg is the unquestioned number 1 NBA draft pick going into this NBA draft. He is currently competing with the Duke Blue Devils in the tournament, but you can see in this photo that was sent to us that he is indeed a BattleBots nerd who is piloting a BattleBot against another BattleBot.
This is amazing. This has so many levels of like, you got Angus King, an independent senator, along with robots. This is great. This is great. I don't know who this Commissioner Macon character is, but yes, I will give them +10 for their interest in robots.
I have a perfect idea for the WNR group Halloween costume, writes Grand Budapest Hotel. Justin can be the ethnically ambiguous brown man. I think he could convincingly pull off the pencil mustache. Jen can be the main love interest as a white brunette woman who's often frustrated with her pigmented man. And Heaton, oh mighty Heaton. He is the perfect long-legged, pretentious Englishman, which I'm convinced he was in a past life, who can be constantly betting older ladies such as Dame Judi Dench, Jane Goodall, and a host of other randy old biddies, and reading obscure poetry, or in his case, economics. If we're going to spend $12 billion on Halloween in this country, the most fitting way for the gang at WNR to contribute would be these costumes.
I am down for this. I love Grand Budapest Hotel. By the way, my old boss Kennedy on Fox Business said that I distinctly reminded her of the dude you're talking about from that film.
Rafe Fiennes' his character.
Yeah. I can't remember it now off the top of my head, but no, I agree. I've got like a touch of really pretentious butler in me. I'm with you on this.
WNR writes, please embrace your acronym. If it ain't wrong, RONG, it ain't right. And that's why my ticker symbol looks like winner rather than LSR.
Nice.
Jen hates it. Heaton, where are you on WNR?
I've come around. Internally within my own highly secure database system that cannot release anything to Jeffrey Goldberg, I put it down as WNW, but you know what? I'll come around. Listen, you're talking to the guy who began the Let's Buy Southwest stock movement, and you all had fun with that, and I'm going to keep having fun with you. So I'm now in the WNR camp.
Which, by the way, the fact that Jen's not here, the reason why we haven't talked about the fact that there's obviously a lot going on with the Southwest company and stock, and they're changing everything, is because Jen still doesn't get it and thinks it's a personal insult. So that's the reason why we haven't talked about it.
Yep, that's it. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was
so
fucking funny.
So did the audience.
Dozens of people wanted to create a Southwest stock investing club with us. Oh, it was great.
Beer Mile. And this is something that would have been good with Jen. Beer Mile writes, next time you're all in the same town, get some NAIPAs and run the We're Not Wrong Beer Mile. I don't know if you're familiar with this, dear emailer, but Heaton and I have run a beer mile together.
With proper beer.
With actual beer.
Yeah, with Ali Spagnola.
With fitness influencer Ali Spagnola.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, is in a celebrity boxing match this summer.
Really? With who?
Some influencer lady.
She was cool. I really liked her. I'm sad that we haven't hung out with her again. And there was like a brief window where I thought maybe she was going to move to Austin. That was fun. The actual beer mile was not fun. I very nearly threw up. Cause it was like we did a lap and then we would hard chug a beer and then do another lap. Is that what we were doing?
I believe we were doing 4 quarter miles. So we would run a quarter mile and then chug 2 beers.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So I think
it's a lot of carbonation to run with, is what I learned.
By the end of it, I think you drink a 6-pack.
Yeah. It was
so you drink a 6-pack and you run a mile, and I dusted everybody.
Justin did a good job,
baby.
Yeah.
I won. I dusted Allie's ass.
I looked like a shambling skeleton about to vomit foam, like projectile fire, industrial strength fire retardant across the road. I should have just had shots.
RAV4 Towing writes, the hybrid version, 1,700 pound capacity of the RAV4 has significantly less towing capacity than the gas powered version, which is 3,500, but Heaton's 1,200 pound scamper could be towed by either version. So I could tow your scamper.
You know what? I got lots of really well-meaning, helpful emails from listeners on this one, where they would track me down and give me like multiple options by price point and things. Thank you for everybody that helped out.
On the Tesla attacks, the San Jose guy writes, in case you haven't seen this Tesla Sentry Mode video, he sent us the link. This person happens to attend my church and would generally be considered a doddering old man. While he is old and infirmed, he does occasionally work as a volunteer handyman at our church, fixing various things like painting over graffiti or fixing cracks in the sidewalk. Through various circumstances, I was texted Sunday morning during church asking if I knew him, and as soon as church was over, I informed the pastor and confronted the individual. Sadly, he denied it, despite obviously it being him, and he left church. Apparently, he was confronted at a local parking lot and again denied it, doubling down by cursing. The next day, the police identified him and arrested him, placing him in the local jail, which is apparently on a felony vandalism charge since it was over $950. Our mayor made a public statement about how this is not the right way to protest political actions, and it is not acceptable in our city. The reason I'm telling you this is that I heard Andrew say, quote, this is likely some college kid in a hoodie when referring to the cars being burnt down, and quote, the prosecution and jury may be influenced by politics to sway one way or another. We can only imagine that this person will be made an example of to turn others away from doing this, but it's all just sad for him and his wife. I haven't spoken with the individual involved since, and I have no idea why he would do this. It doesn't look like they were fighting over a parking place or anything. He was just being a jerk.
Thank you for correcting me on this record, listener. I'd like to update my official stance. I hate young people and old people. I hate college students that are insufferable and commit arson and graffiti and all that stuff. Also, coffin dodgers fucking piss me off. So I pretty much just want median bell curve distribution of middle-aged people. That's who I don't hate.
I will say that a lot of these Tesla vandalism people, it's a pretty high proportion of like boomers, like people who have been, their brains have just been permanently broken by the Trump years.
You get these weird, like you do get these weird old dudes. Like I remember reading a story. This is now 6 years old, I think. But there was somebody for years would take a shit in this guy's yard, like a human. And like turned out it was he had a vote Democrat sign on his yard, and his next door neighbor was this old dude that would come shit in his yard for voting Democrat. And like, yep, that kind of thing does happen. And plus, like, I know we've alluded to this before, but when I worked on the Hill, man, the amount of angry old people that I talked to that, So, yeah, I guess, listener, thank you for expanding my horizons here. And it is sad, but I'll say it's sad whenever anybody fucks up their life. Like it's sad when a 19-year-old makes a really dumb decision that, like we all made stupid decisions when we were 19. It's sad when somebody that's 19 like fucks something up seriously, where you're like, oh, you're going to do jail time for a while. This is going to complicate your life for the rest. Like it is sad. I agree. Yeah. It's sad when an old person does it and like, mars into their life in scandal at best, and makes everybody wonder if they're senile for the rest of their life. And also if he does jail time, a month for an 85-year-old guy is a lot longer than a month for a 35-year-old guy in terms of remaining lifespan. So I agree it's sad, but also don't blow up fucking cars.
For the love of God, please do not invest emotionally in politics. Please keep politics to be an intellectual pursuit, one that you use to advance your own interests, advance the interest of your beliefs, but you have to have an emotional detachment from this stuff. Specifically, I think as you get older and, things happen, the world that you built around you starts to atrophy. People you used to know die. The people that you used to count as elders aren't there anymore. The world's kind of looking to you. And if you don't have connections that go beyond politics, man, I think you get stuff like this. Get Up and Mo writes, Justin casually advocating Guantanamo, where people can be held indefinitely with no charges filed or scheduled court appearances, regardless of citizenry status, for property damage, claiming what if someone died when nobody has. However, in actual political violence where people really did die, no one went to Gitmo and everyone received a blanket pardon. No calls from Justin or any of the other hosts for sending people to Guantanamo. Please help me understand how those two opinions can cohabitate in one brain. I get that Justin likes to play devil's advocate for MAGA, but no one on the panel does the same for far left views. Dear listener, let me explain to you how these things can cohabitate in one brain. Number one, I didn't say what you're saying I said. What I was making the example of is if you want public support for what I believe to be over harsh, if not extrajudicial punishment for property crimes, then don't do things that butt up against legal definitions of domestic terrorism and attacking property for the sake of cowing somebody that is working within the government does more to cut that figure in the eyes of the average citizen than, let's say, just pooping in somebody's yard because you don't like their face. So if we are to understand that all I was doing was painting a possible future where a thing that you do not like could happen, then let's also say that I am only trying to represent, again, well, number one, I'm not even going to say this is me representing MAGA. I was not representing MAGA. I was painting a dark days of future past possible future for people who believe that you shouldn't be sent to Gitmo for property crimes. I'm telling you, you want a world where that happens? This is how you get to that world. And that's why it is not good for anybody involved, for the left, right, or center, for there to be property crime attacks on people that are involved in the government.
I have been very clear on Gitmo now for 15 years, and that is only send people under 23 or over 90. I hate young people. I hate old people. And that is what I'm concerned about.
It's regulations all the way down, right? Hey, Jen is not here. We can't have those Chinese or European vehicles you want for several reasons, most of which are not tariffs. They are not allowed to be sold in the U.S., mostly because of government regulations on emissions, and some of them because of Department of Transportation safety standards. There's more detail here, but this was mostly for Jen.
Keep going.
Okay. Other barriers to entry not related to government are business related, such as costs for establishing dealership networks and sales costs, maintenance and warranty costs, and the ability to set up authorized maintenance shops or contacts, parts for maintenance and repairs, liability insurance agreements, and data for coverage of customers. Then costs of shipping fully assembled units or building a local plant for final assembly. There are many difficult problems in shipping and selling these large type of products that require ongoing maintenance and care and public safety utilizing public roads. Heaton, you are fully tumescent.
Listener, you make a great point. Thank you for your email. This is very salient to the conversation we're having. Regulations might be needed, but they're not free, and you can accrue too many of them. And while it varies from sector to sector, in general, the United States tends to be overregulated compared to a lot of the countries that we lust over, like those aforementioned Swedes that I was talking to earlier in the episode. They have less of an interventionist economy than we have. They have higher taxes and they have a better social safety net. And I would totally take that deal. But regulations aren't free, and a lot of the time they cause problems.
Heaton thinks that temper tantrums are ineffective, writes, why was it that Tesla was selling cars on the White House front lawn? Musk has brazenly been an asshole while associating himself with consumer brands. There's a vulnerability that political vandalism can affect political outcomes and should be a red flag for all corporations to involve themselves in politics, contradicting Lewis Powell's memo for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in 1971. There's ramifications of neoliberal policies that butt up against the human condition, and crimes against poverty and violence are some of those consequences. So this emailer posits, Heaton in 1773. Don't destroy private property. That's the crown's tea, and you rapscallions dressed up as Indians are just ne'er-do-wells throwing a tantrum. Heaton in 1875. Wait a minute. You can't just abscond with somebody else's private property, no matter how reprehensible I might personally find the peculiar institution. We need to remain within the rules of common decency, and we can end the practice in a couple generations. And Heaton in 1967. I think that the wanton destruction of private property in this long, hot summer of 1967 is beyond the pale. And I do like the Reverend Kingsmore milquetoast phrase of judging individuals by the content of their character, and not so much that white moderates are a bigger barrier to Klansmen or that riots are the voice of the unheard. If you want a more tranquil society, it's going to take widespread appeasement, not pearl clutching at the popular sentiment that the wealthy should get their comeuppance. I'm only going to add editorially before I turn this over to Heaton that MLK said white liberals were worse than segregationists, not white moderates. Heaton?
Wow, this listener's really nailed me for being on the wrong side of history at literally every single junction, including slavery. So a couple of things. First of all, the Tesla bit, don't sell Tesla on the lawn of the White House. That's also an asshole move. But the thing that I was getting to was temper tantrums. What I mean by that is, let's say, collateral damage of people uninvolved. I am fundamentally opposed to, I am going to hurt people that are not a part of this equation because I am angry. That is dumb fuck emotional bullshit that has consequences. I find it interesting that you left out the Rodney King riots that happened in LA in the 1990s, because you can find some great footage of people in LA coming out and sobbing because their small business that they've worked on has been lit on fire, looted, and destroyed. Black people that had nothing to do with it. It's the people that are the collateral damage that are dealing with a fallout from, I'm mad at the world, so I'm going to break shit randomly, that I have sympathy for. In terms of the other things you bring up, all right, with the tea thing, dude, get your history straight here. The reason they threw the tea in the harbor was that the East India Trading Company had a tax exemption in the United States that they were that was being imposed on the colonists, but not the East India Trading Company, which is already a quasi-governmental entity. So they were going after the right group. They were targeting the group that they had a problem with throwing it in. I think is the dude who talks most about freedom on this panel. I'm pretty safe in saying I oppose slavery, and I don't want to go too far into that one. But yeah, slavery bad. And with the Martin Luther King thing, you're right. I am a big Martin Luther King fan, and I agree with the stuff that you brought up. But something that I'll bring up with Martin Luther King Jr. as well is that he would talk about how you have an obligation to ignore an unjust law. You have an ethical obligation, if a law is unjust, to not uphold and follow that law. And you have to pay for it. It's not free. You don't get to take a law that is unjust and then break it and then turn around and go, I did the right thing, I'm self-righteous, let's not have any consequences to this. So the main thing, though, that I want to point out here, it's not that I'm saying all private property is always sacred in every single instance across the time-space continuum. It's don't throw a temper tantrum where you hurt people as collateral damage that aren't a part of the problem. But yeah, even then, like, don't burn shit from McDonald's and stuff. Like, there are better ways to handle this than setting shit on fire. I don't think it's productive. I don't think it solves problems. And I whole cloth reject your email.
EV Fires writes, I'm an auto tech. Hybrid and electric battery fires are very dangerous. They tell us just to evacuate the building and call fire department. Should they have one catch fire at the shop? I'm not against them. I'm just providing context. Every car in the last 20 plus years is full of computers talking to each other for everything a car does, even simple stuff like putting the window down. Over-the-air software updates do occur, but still require approval from regulated governmental orgs before they can be applied and sent out, especially if they affect emissions or safety.
Interesting.
And finally, are we sure? Right. There's currently no evidence to support the claim that these vandalisms were perpetrated by actors with intent. No suspects, no claims of responsibility, no calls to the media for help, nothing. Just the FBI saying they're looking into it. At this point, the conspiracy theory is that Musk and or dealers did it for their own insurance money because the company's stock is tanking and they're not moving product. They just need to. That is just as likely of an idea as vandalism for political motives.
I'm going to say that that's possible, but this is a pretty good Occam's razor scenario. The simplest explanation that we have available to us, although you're right, we don't have a manifesto from the people that set these cars on fire, but the simplest explanation would be that people hate Elon Musk, I would say for a lot of good reasons, in fact, and that they're blowing up his cars as a misguided political statement. It is possible that this is some kind of expertly executed conspiracy to try to recoup their stock losses by blowing up 11 cars or less. It seems much less likely. So, yeah, just in terms of us shooting from the hip here, I'm going to go with the preponderance of evidence and default on Occam's razor. Justin?
Yeah. Don't be fucking stupid. Come on. Jesus Christ. Like, if you wanted to write down massive amounts of it, like, there are different ways that you could do it that don't involve these kinds of firebombs. Like, it is always my least favorite element of the apologist left that they don't want to own when shit gets gnarly. Like either you're about that life or you're not. Either you believe, yeah, I'm an accelerationist. I believe that we should be lighting these things on fire because we are living in an authoritative hellscape. The oligarchs have officially captured the levers of power, and I will not stand idly by. I am going to blow up these things, which, look, congratulations. You are in a class of people like the Weather Underground, and maybe in 30 years, your side will eventually win and you'll be venerated as a hero, and, the president of the United States won't have to pay a cost for being your, protege after years. But right now, it's, look, either you're doing it or you're not. Either you're into it or you're not. This is a pretty clear thing. Some people believe that Tesla should go down and people should be afraid to drive Teslas. And so they're blowing them up and they're stopping people in the streets and saying, sell your car. That's what people are doing. This is the thing that frustrates me, is that when certain, admittedly hard-nosed, violent perspectives are put out there, the people that are saying it aren't hiding behind it. The people that are doing it aren't hiding behind it. It is the intellectualization of it that bothers me. Either be on the side of that or not. That's it. When things get to the level of violence, it's pretty clear. Schumer writes, why though? I love the scathing analysis of the Democratic Party paying lip service to voters rather than actually getting anything progressive done. Arguably, since LBJ, all Democratic presidents and most of the party have acted as Republican light for the last 50 years. Here's my question. Why? This can't be a good electoral strategy to run as the Clinton-Cheney coalition party, so why are they doing it? Politicians' whole reason for existing is to win elections. Why are they so bad at this?
Yeah, a couple of things here. I don't know that I wholly agree with that portrayal of the Democratic Party, but what I will point out to you is that when I talk to Republicans that are concerned with some sort of intellectual or doctrinal purity, they sound very much like you with Republicans, where they say the Republican Party, the phrase that I hear is the Republican Party is just the Democratic Party going the speed limit. I think that there's a thought process that's very natural and intuitive, but can be flawed, that our team is just an imitation of the other team, which is always far more ruthless and competent than our team is. But just think about for a minute that the Republicans have this exact same narrative. It's slightly tweaked, but it's the problem with the Republican Party is it's just the Democrats with Southern accents, and we need to have a better Republican Party. This is a debate going on within the Democratic Party. There's the Matt Iglesias side of it that goes, we need to be the party of abundance and governmental competency and pragmatism. There's the leftist side of the Democratic coalition that goes, we need to have somebody point to true north and be the city on a hill and kick out all these cuck moderates and go the route of Elizabeth Warren and AOC and Bernie Sanders. That's I think a pretty lively debate going on there. I'm not a Democrat, but I'm pretty firmly in the stay in the Matt Iglesias camp. And Jen, who is not here, would 100% agree with me. She would 100% say that Matt Iglesias and the pragmatic Democrats, the pro-market Democrats like Jared Polis,
Ezra Kleins,
that they are ultimately the best electoral strategy.
This is so dirty to do to her on her birthday. Dems have learned nothing, writes. One idea regarding some of the Democratic messaging decisions was that in 8 to 12 quickly realized the power of then emerging social media. Unfortunately, they learned the wrong decisions from this and gave over part of their broad base of support, catering to shrill, loud activist people on social media. It draws a distinction between the more statesmanish versus media personality politician types in the party, and unforgettably, the party seems to be capitulating toward the latter. This is probably at great long-term cost to them because in catering to online people, they've lost a lot of the non-terminally online Americans. I would disagree with you slightly. While I don't believe that online is quote unquote real life, I do think that there are signal within the noise that you can find from online conversations. And that maybe if you see a bunch of people screaming and yelling about immigrants, you shouldn't say, okay, well, let's ban all immigrants no matter what. And let's totally close everything down and eject anybody that got here. But maybe you can say, all right, there is a rising tide in questions about the border, and there is a more mainstream perspective on that. And so that's what the right has done when it's been doing it effectively. The problem with the Democrats are they have such a tight hold on power, and they have been so obsessed with the process of the party that it's going to take that party breaking super loose before they figure out a median element of it. And that's essentially what happened with the Republican Party. In 2016, everybody that were good stewards of that party, quote unquote, that had been groomed their entire lives and been brought up by all the appropriate poobahs who had been brought up by all the appropriate poobahs before them, they were cast out into the wilderness, and they were really mad about it. And they're still writing about it on the Dispatch and the Bulwark, even as we speak. On a cold night, you can still hear them being butthurt about it. But the Republican Party did wind up finding a coalition that worked and wound up winning the popular vote in this last election. It's not what the Reagan Republicans were. It's not what the Republicans were before Reagan. It is its own thing. The Democrats, in my opinion, are beginning that process. They had an opportunity to do it in 2016 with Bernie. They had an opportunity to do it in 2020 with Bernie. They didn't want to do it because they didn't want to relinquish control. They pushed him down. Would he have lost? Yeah, I think he would have. He probably would have lost both times. But you would have had at least a scramble to see who's the center of power in this party. And right now, it doesn't exist. They're going to figure it out. That's the process.
I think Justin's analysis is very smart. I don't know, push back on Justin or agree with the listener, something like that. I think the Democrats are falling prey to something that a lot of people are falling prey to. I don't think it's limited to the Democratic Party, which is to really, really, really overweigh online chatter. So like, I was just in Alva, Oklahoma this last weekend. Let's say theoretically that the Alva Goldbugs basketball stadium has 200 people in it, and all of them go, "We hate Coca-Cola. We hate it. We think it's woke," or something like that, right?
Yeah,
And
Coca-Cola.
the 200 of them write a letter to them and say, "Coca-Cola, we hate you." If the Coca-Cola executives got a letter from these 200 people in the stadium in Alva, Oklahoma, they would just laugh. They're like, "This is nothing. We don't care," right? But if 200 people tweet at them at the same time, they'll think about it.
Yeah.
Same amount of people. But there's this weird, like, I don't know what it is. There's some sort of cognitive illusion that occurs online where people really overburden it.
Media. That's the difference.
Media does,
the difference is that if they get a letter, that's something that happens in their mailroom. If it happens online, then they now have to worry about whether or not there's going to be headlines about a trending topic.
Yeah. Plus, like, Twitter, I mean, like, I guess we're moving out of this era where Twitter, I guess, is supreme, but like, the stats on Twitter are that it is really, really distorted. It's not emblematic of America. It's like, I've got these stats in my book, but it's something like 80% of the tweets come from 20% of the accounts.
Yeah.
And only, I don't know, maybe only like 30% of people in America are even on Twitter more than once a year. And of those that are on it, it's disproportionately urban, disproportionately college educated, disproportionately Democrat. And so, like, it is this funhouse mirror version of America. And if you just kind of go in and assume, and it's really easy to do that. Like, Reason is, maybe I mentioned earlier, we did a parody of Severance. I think it's really funny. It didn't do quite as well as I thought it was going to be. But then, like, I look at it and I'm like, right, because I love Severance. All my friends love Severance. Severance isn't that popular compared to, like, The Walking Dead. Walking Dead, which I haven't even watched in 10 years, is way bigger than Severance. But if you were to talk to me or anybody in my friend group, we would go, "Oh, Walking Dead, is that still on?" No, Severance is where it's at, right? It's very easy for these things to happen.
We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. On PX3 this week, we've got more talk about the Signal stuff with Kirk Beto of the National Journal, and a report on Hollywood donors not opening up their checkbooks for the Democratic Party, at least as of yet. Heaton?
On the political orphanage this week, we've got a weird one. It's weird, gang, but it's fun. Justin, do you know Sebastian Junger? Are you familiar with him?
No.
Sebastian Junger is a war correspondent. He wrote The Perfect Storm from like 20 years ago, if you saw that film.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called Tribes on Coming Home and Belonging that I was very taken with. It made a really, really big impact on me and how I analyze tribalism and how I analyze partisanship and politics. He wrote a book recently called Freedom. I don't think he's libertarian or conservative, but he wrote a book on freedom, and I wanted to talk to you about that. And then he died, or came very close to dying, I should say. Like, I don't know that his brain actually stopped, but he lost 10 pints of blood in a day.
Jesus.
And and that's how many pints of blood you have.
Yeah.
So he died, and I contacted him and was like, hey, can we just talk about what it's like to die?
Yeah.
And we have a fascinating conversation. It's the most woo-woo the show has ever got. Sebastian Junger's an atheist, and like his dad, also an atheist, who died 8 years ago, like came to usher him into the afterlife. And
Jesus.
so it's me kind of gently pushing back on him a little bit, going, well, is this just a hallucination that, you know, your dad was there, so you're inferring that he came to you from across the threshold, but if you'd hallucinated about the Hamburglar, that you would have dismissed it. Friendly conversation, but it's a really, really interesting chat. So it's not political at all. If you want to break from politics, gang, check out The Political Orphanage this week, because it's literally just me talking to near-death experiences with a war correspondent.
That's amazing. All right. For Jen Briney and Andrew Heaton, I'm Justin Robert Young, reminding you that we're not wrong. Jen's laptop is.
Nice.
Dog and Pony Show audio.